please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call. Commissioner Schmock.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Marshall.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Miller. We also have our town planner, Mr. Lick.
City planner.
City planner.
Present.
City planner. And our mayor, Mayor Swanson.
I am here.
There we go. We're also joined by two guests. If you would please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sam Yoakum, the city engineer. Shane Nelson with Hawkinson Anderson. I work with Sam.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Claim forms, has everyone turned in their claim forms to Kayla? Okay. Okay, B, approval of the agenda for tonight. One thing I would like to add is I would like to add under new business, if we could insert a second driveway discussion. And I'd like to do that first. And so move each one down one. The reason why a second driveway discussion on that, then we can go to the discussion on the stormwater management with the city engineers. Then we have all the information that everybody is here for primarily. Then we can get on to Bill's resignation and the recommendation for appointment to the planning commission. So new number one, and then each one of those will subsequently go down one spot. That's the only thing that I have. Anybody else has anything? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to change, approve it with that one change.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Okay, approve with that one change. Okay. Part of the reason we are here is we are here for public hearing, Jonathan Lee Clover, 28213 128th Street, regarding home business within an accessory building, looking for an interim use permit.
Sure.
Yes.
Did we not approve the minute?
Thank you very much for catching that. Sorry, I'm a little excited tonight. Okay, let's go back to C, approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on May 28th, 2025.
Just one correction.
Okay,
Under the heading of Commissioner Marshall, public statement, the third line should just be Commissioner Marshall instead of commission.
okay. Anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve with the changes.
Okay,
I'll second.
second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, approve with that one change. Okay, now on to D. Tonight's meeting, we have a public hearing regarding Jonathan Lee Clover, 28213 128th Street. It's regarding a home business with an accessory building, and he's looking for an interim use permit. At this time, we'll turn it over to Mr. Lick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you stated, the address, the Clovers have their home in a detached accessory building on the property. What they're proposing is shown on the screens behind the chair and this side of the room as well. What they would like to do is have consignment boat sales where someone contracts with them to sell their boat. They would have a small display area at the south property line. So looking at the requirements for the approval, it's an interim use established by the zoning ordinance to allow for this. That means it's subject to certain conditions outlined by the zoning ordinance, and then also as an interim use permit, it can be terminated either for non-compliance, a change in the zoning ordinance that makes the use not allowed, or a violation of any of the conditions that were approved. Otherwise, the use basically continues uninterrupted. The planning commission can also put a sunset date on it if there's basis to believe that the use would be appropriate now, but at some point certain in the future, it would no longer be appropriate for that location. The comprehensive plan guides the property for low-density residential uses, again emphasizing rural character, taking advantage of scenic locations such as the property adjacent to Cantlin Lake. looking at how home occupations are allowed within the city, the intent is there to be small in scale so as not to cause disruption within the surrounding area. That ultimately, whether the use would be appropriate in this location is a determination to be made by the planning commission in approving or making a recommendation to not approve the request or add any conditions appropriate. So the requirements specific to the interim use permit is that the business must be located on the homesteaded property of the business owner, meaning they live on the property where the business is occurring. They have to either enclose the activity within an 1,800 square foot structure or an accessory space. In this case, the outdoor display area would be subject to that 1,800 square foot limit. We also did suggest that the planning commission put a limit on the number of boats that could be displayed if you were going to make a recommendation to approve. Again, trying to control the scale of this so that it's appropriate for a more rural residential area versus something that should be more intensive and located in a commercial area. They can't have any more than 2 employees other than members of the household. They can't engage in any activities that are more industrial in nature like sandblasting, painting, spraying, or similar. They are allowed 1 sign that would be 12 square feet visible from the adjacent public street. It would have to meet the other requirements of the zoning ordinance, such as being set back 10 feet from any property line and require a permit prior to being installed. The council and planning commission can limit the hours of operation. In the past, the planning commission has used MPCA daytime hours as the reference point, but impose more strict limits on weekends to avoid, again, any compatibility issues. And then if approved, the property is subject to inspection by city staff at any time to ensure compliance with the requirements. The lot itself does comply with area and width standards of the zoning ordinance. What comes into play with this interim use permit is making sure that the display area meets all the setback requirements. We noted in our report, obviously this is a rough sketch of where the proposed display area would be. It appears to be within the 150 feet of Cantlin Lake. It also needs to be set back 20 feet from the south property line and 67 feet from the county road line on the west side of the property. So if approved, we'd look to have a certificate of survey prepared showing where the display area is, and then have that display area defined either with a paved asphalt or concrete surface or either class 5, so that there would be limitation on the number of boats, and that area is specifically defined as to where they can be. Surrounding uses include the existing single-family properties to the south. There's additional single-family properties on the west side of 128th Street and similar rural uses basically around Cantlin Lake. The zoning ordinance limits any impervious surface within this lot to 25% of the lot area. Based on the size of the actual lot above the water line, that would need to be defined and then shown on that certificate of survey that the display area is within that 25%. The existing driveway to the property is off of 128th Street. There isn't any proposal to change that access as part of the request, and any such request would be subject to Sherburne County approval. Because there isn't a building permit involved with this, they're not required to deal with the septic system on the property, and there would be only minor impacts potentially to stormwater, but any such issues would also be subject to the city engineer's approval. So in general, the use can comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, subject to the conditions that we outlined in our report. Ultimately, again, the planning commission must determine if the use is appropriate within rural residential areas in approving or making a recommendation for approval.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I would like the applicant or representative of the applicant to please approach the podium. If you would please give your name and address to Kayla.
Hi, Jonathan Lee Clover, 28213 128th Street Northwest, Zimmerman, Minnesota 55398. Kayla.
Basically, we heard from Mr. Lick. Anything you would like to add to that or
Absolutely.
comment?
First of all, thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. I want to introduce myself. I'm Jonathan Clover. This is my wife, Megan Clover. we met at Mankey's Resort in Cambridge years ago. We were probably about this tall. I worked at the resort. We fell in love with lakes, boats, and met years later and got married and now have 3 beautiful kids. Pretty proud of it. We bought this place and it was pretty run down when we moved in. It was dead trees everywhere, leaves this deep, cobwebs, you name it. And we've put our heart and soul into making that place look good. A lot of time, a lot of hard work, and we're very proud of it. We love the lake. It's an amazing lake. It's clean. We have tons of care for it. We've made a lot of friends on the lake. Becky's one of them. So just short and sweet, we love boats. We've been around them our whole life. I know a lot about them, so does my wife. And this kind of started as a hobby. I was asked to help a couple people with boats and asked to help sell some boats, help clean boats, and we helped some friends' parents. They were old, they didn't have any way to haul a boat, didn't have a trailer to move it, they had just bought a property. Said, can you help us sell the thing? I said, absolutely. So we drove up there and looked at it and tugged it home, cleaned it up, and we sold it for them, and they were very grateful. They gave us a gift, and it was pretty cool. And we're like, gosh, we could really make something of this. This is fun. So as a start, we've kind of had fun with it. And now more and more people have been telling us, it should be nice if you could help us. I just actually helped my neighbor Tony sell his boat, and he wants to upgrade, and he's like, oh, I don't want to clean it. I don't want to deal with it. I had a mouse in there, and Megan and I helped him clean up the mouse crap and make it look good, and took some nice pictures of it, sold it in 2 days. So it's just kind of something we're doing for fun, and we now want to grow it. I work a full-time job. I've had the same job for over half my life. I've been there fully employed for over 20 years, and I love my job. I don't have any intention on quitting my job anytime soon. This is purely something we like to do on the side, and just like to help people. I sat through a church service once, and my pastor said, you get a lot of gratification out of helping people and doing good things, and I've really made something of that. It's important to me. So as far as what people think of this, I don't know if people think we're going to build some great big dealership and put up all these lights and fences and big buildings. That's not our intention. I mean, we want to keep this small, help people, consignment. I don't want to sell brand new premier boats. I don't want to go knocking on, boat places to see if I can sell their boats brand new. Just simply want to help people out, clean boats, make it easy for people. And I'd like to get a dealer license to do that so I can make an income doing it. And in order to do that, I have to operate out of somewhere. So why not operate out of our garage, Just have to have an address basically to get our stuff mailed to us, and it'd be nice for as far as paperwork and transfers and just kind of make things more legit, in my opinion, and that's what I'm looking to do. Not looking to have a ton of boats, don't want to be open 9 to 5, don't even want to be open to the public. I want an appointment only, just like it's been with people. Usually we'll make an ad and someone reaches out, I can say, I can meet you at this time, this place, meet them, show them the boat, if they like it, great. I just want to keep it simple. That's pretty much all we're looking to do. We're not looking to alter our property. We really care about our property. If anyone's ever been out on Canton Lake and drove around that lake, we are very proud of the way we made it look, and we want to keep it that way. That's important to us. It really is. I currently own 3 boats. I've got kind of a thing with boats. I got a speedboat, 2 pontoons. My kids like boats. And, we don't intend on having, more than 4 to 6 boats. And I would hope I could keep it somewhere close to 4, helping people. And not looking for anything major, like I say, just keeping it simple. I don't think there's really any reason to provide a restroom. Again, we're going to be meeting people for a short appointment. I've been to several businesses in town that doesn't supply restrooms to the public, so I'm not looking to do anything like that. I don't think it's going to change really anything with our property, other than if someone wants me to put a sign up, I'll put a sign up. I would rather not put a sign up and invite people down my driveway when I'm not home, As far as like security lighting, I'm not looking to change anything like that. We already currently have cameras and a secure home, and we don't have any problems with theft or vandalism or anything like that. So I'm not concerned with that. If anybody's concerned with the area we intend to use, I'd surely be open to if someone could tell me how they would prefer it or where they would prefer it. We just picked a good spot that seemed like it would be kind of not too close to the road, not too close to the house, kind of, seemed like a good spot. And as long as it complies, which we looked at everything and it seemed like everything complied well, so we're just kind of looking to do it the way people would prefer we do it. And if people have suggestions, we're open to it. People have issues with it, I would love that they'd call me and reach out and tell me. If there's something that they don't like, feel free. So, I can't think of too much else. Is there anything else I really need to touch on? I mean, this is not, I don't want anyone to think this is gonna be some crazy big thing and I'm gonna quit my job and turn this into some huge deal. If it ever does turn into something, I'm gonna go buy some land and build a commercial building and turn it into something someday if I decide to, but that's not my intentions at all. I love my job that I work at full-time, and like I say, I fully intend on staying there.
Okay, the two things, the one you had mentioned that there could be no more than 2 employees if you would hire outside of family. You said you have no intention to.
I don't have any intention. I mean, I wish I could get my kids to help me more, get some more work out of them. It's hard enough to get them to mow the grass, but I'm working on that every day. My wife is my biggest help, my best friend, my biggest partner. And she works harder than me at this type of stuff. So she's the one that's good at cleaning them and making them look nice and taking amazing pictures of them and really making them appeal to people and bringing them back to life. And I'm sure proud of her for that. So.
Other question was, or one other than that was addressed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the number of boats you would have, you had mentioned like 4 to 6, I believe, and that's something that we would be looking at, because we want to be fair to you.
Absolutely.
But we don't want to set too high a number, where for neighbors and people going
Right.
by, it's like you're saying, we don't want it to look like, holy cow, this is a
And
boat sale.
I don't like old junky boats. I don't like the looks of, I've been to several places in Zimmerman, Baldwin, all over the place where you see they look like junkyards. I've got neighbors that have a lot of junk, and I don't ever want that. I have too much pride in our property to do that. Like I say, I do currently own 3 boats that are mine, and I don't think that should interfere with anything, because I should be allowed to have a boat on the lake, and my kids should be allowed to have a boat and things like that. But, I don't see this getting in excess. If there's a number that you say, this is what you gotta have, I can comply with that. And that's when I tell my consignment, someone looking to consign a boat, sorry, I can't consign your boat until I get rid of one, And I don't intend on storing boats over the winter, don't intend on shrink wrapping any boats. I have a friend in town that owns the lumber yard, and he's got tons of space, and we've already talked to him, and he said, if you need to store something indoors, bring it on over and we'll work it out. So I don't intend to have boats all winter long shrink wrapped and eyesores. That's not our intentions at all.
Just briefly, any of you 3 have a comment at this time or question for him? Go ahead.
Were you planning on repairing boats at all?
No, I really don't. I'm not super good at repairing things. I mean, I'm somewhat mechanical, but about all I ever do is change my own oil in my own boats.
Will you be repairing the boats that you plan on?
No, I don't want to buy a boat or
That needs-
consign a boat that doesn't, if someone tells me my boat doesn't run and has major problems, I'm gonna say, well, you should probably take it to a dealership and get it repaired. And once it's running good, I'd be happy to clean it up and help you sell it, but no, I have no intention on repairing boats.
So you don't expect to have any boats laying around for parts?
No, none whatsoever. Matter of fact, like I say, I don't really like tinkering with stuff that much.
Go ahead.
You have a boat ramp?
Yes,
You do have one.
yes.
And what is the distance between your storage area and the shoreline?
I would have to measure that.
An estimate.
I estimate, wasn't it supposed to be 150 feet or something?
Okay.
I guess I don't know. I would imagine it's that. I don't know. I would have to. And again, if I have to move the area where we display boats,
Yeah.
I'm totally open to that. We have a lot of, it's a big
Yeah.
property.
You have one person who lives in the lot next to you, depending on which way you read the map, it would be south of you, I guess.
Yeah,
And he's not that close to you. How far is he away?
I guess I don't know exactly, feet wise, but far enough to where I don't even see their house at all, especially this
So,
time of year.
Is there a difference between where you're gonna work on the, whatever you wanna do, and your boat display area?
Again, I mean, it
No, I mean, where are you gonna, if somebody, exactly what do you do to boats?
typically clean them, power wash them,
Okay,
things like that.
and do you do that in the display area?
No, I would typically prefer to clean them right where we clean our cars, right on our driveway
Is there a
where.
building for that, or?
No, we can do that outside. And we just typically use plain water. We don't use any harsh chemicals or anything like that.
Okay. How many other people on that lake have boats?
Quite a few. I would say probably 75% of the people on the lake would be my
There's
guess.
13 lots there, 13, 14 lots there. I don't know how many of them are occupied, but does everybody have a boat?
I wouldn't say everybody, there's-
7 or 10 boats
On the back bay, or are you talking the entire lake?
in the area? How many boats on the thing on a regular day?
If I was to guess on the lake, gosh, 25 maybe boats on the lake, somewhere in there. That'd be my guess. Yeah,
All right, thank you.
yeah, no problem at all. Thank you.
Okay, one more question for you. You said you were okay with it, but if this would go on for possible, for our approval, if possible, with recommendation for the city council, Mr. Lick mentioned that there were several things, 10 of them, that you would need to abide by following conditions.
Yeah.
Are you aware of all 10 of those?
I believe so, but if you want to run them past me
Yeah.
again, I mean, I'm kind of,
I'm gonna read them all just because anybody who's here for the public portion of the meeting, I
Absolutely.
figure if I read it now, then if they have anything they want to state, they can ask it before I close it to the public. So just to be fair to you as well as anyone else, I want to read them. So
I appreciate that.
if this would be recommended for approval, these conditions would have to be met. Number one, the interim use permit shall terminate upon happening of the following events, whichever occurs first. Upon violation of conditions under which the interim use permit was issued, upon change in the zoning ordinance that renders the use non-conforming, the redevelopment of the use and property upon which it is located to a permitted or conditional use as allowed with the respective zoning district, or upon a change in ownership, whether pursuant to move, sale, transfer, assignment, or otherwise, the owner or proposed new owner must complete a new application subject to approval pursuant to the zoning ordinance. That's number one. Number two, the business shall be located on the homestead property of the business owner, which you stated it is. Shall be no employees other than the members of the household residing on the premises. Now, that was stated as two, they can have up to two. So,
Also be limited, Mr. Chair. It can also be limited to no outside employees as a condition of approval.
okay, so that's something to think about. Number four, the property owner shall obtain and possess boat dealer license issued by the Minnesota Department of Public Safety at all times that boats are offered for display from the property. Number five, outdoor sales and displays shall be limited to a number of boats as determined by the city council as defined area that complies with the setback requirements of the R1 district and surfaced with class 5 material. We spoke about the number of boats, coming to an agreement there. Business hour of operations shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Monday through Saturday, and no work shall be allowed on Sunday. Now, you stated you are not interested in having business hours because you didn't want people just showing up.
I prefer appointment.
Appointment only,
Yeah,
so-
I mean, I don't see any reason to do business hours unless it's required.
Okay.
I would rather not.
Okay, so if we change that just for, and I'm just asking this, if that was changed to like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., does that work for you, or you want to keep, because we also don't want to,
I don't think we ever really set any hours. I saw something on this letter saying something about hours, but I don't think we really ever
Okay.
filled that part out. But yeah, whatever.
we just want something to protect the neighbors, so if we, because if it says 10 p.m. and someone shows up at 9:55 on a Tuesday night with a four-wheel drive and dual exhaust, and they're just, that engine's just waking up the whole neighborhood, we
I
want to be
have
respectful.
no intention on anything like
Okay.
that, so that sounds great.
Number seven, there shall be no more than one non-illuminated business sign totaling no more than 12 feet on the premises. something else, Mr. Schlick, that if you did get a sign, you said you weren't necessarily interested, but if so, it can be no larger than 12 square feet located on your premises. Any solid or liquid waste shall be handled and disposed of according to any applicable county or state regulations. You mentioned that you're only washing it with water, so there should be nothing of concern there, but it would be stated in the approval as well. Number 9, there may be no sandblasting, chemical paint spraying, or similar activity associated with the business. That works for you. And
Got
then
it.
lastly, number 10, the applicants and/or property owners shall permit the zoning administrator to inspect the property at any time. So those are the 10 conditions that would have to be met. You seem
Yeah, I'm fine with
able
that.
to all of them, so.
Yeah, I guess, thinking about it, it'd be kinda nice to maybe go as late as 9, just cause it is light till 9:30, you know? But, don't intend on doing anything late and making noise, and typically we deal with 4-stroke, small motors, not large, powerful engines, not anything that stinks or pollutes or makes crazy amount of noise. I mean, we never had any complaints, and I don't see why we would, so.
I guess I'm maybe just recommending maybe we do stay with the no employees, because if you do add employees, I'm afraid you're gonna get into a bathroom situation. If that seems
Yeah, we can stick,
logical.
yeah, we can stick with that at this time, conditions as they are.
Chair?
Yes,
I just had a question about hours. I know that he said it's gonna be by appointment, but just to cover somebody calling. For our home businesses, didn't we usually have a 7 to 7 PM?
Monday through Thursday we did because we didn't want, because we didn't want anyone showing up during the work week, or Friday and Saturday night we weren't as concerned with, because Saturday morning and Sunday morning, people typically don't have to get up at 4 or 5 or 6 to go to work. So that may be something.
Fine with whatever you guys recommend, I'm fine with that. I mean, I'll just adjust to that, that's no problem at all.
We just, when we get to that point. Yes, Mr. Marshall?
Apparently a citizens group from there put out a list of concerns.
Sure.
Have you talked with them at all?
I was just recently, this was just brought to my attention, so no, I haven't. We reached out and, I mean, I wish people would talk
We
to us,
are
that's what
aware
I
of
would,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, what we'll do at this time is we will possibly call you and or Megan back up, but at this time I'm gonna open it to the public, so anybody who has any questions, concerns, that they may approach the podium. So thank you very much for
really
your time.
appreciate it. Yep.
Jonathan, we appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
As well, Megan. Okay, at this time, we will open this portion of the public hearing to anyone in the audience who has any questions or comments. If you do, please approach the podium and give your name.
Rosemarie Walker. I got a question. That boat licensing goes in effect, I believe, July 1st. You gotta have a license, isn't it, to have a boat now? Or permit, yeah, they started off with just the youth, but now they're gonna do the other.
40 and under.
I thought they were gonna do the other ones too.
40 and under.
Oh, well, 40 and under,
Over
okay.
the course of the next several years.
So do you have to have those permits if you sell boats? If somebody sells boats, or they have to be permitted?
Well, in order for us to,
Okay, you need to address the questions to us, not.
Okay, do they have to be permitted to sell them? I mean, it's something to look into with that new law coming up.
Mr. Chair, they need to be licensed to sell the boats by the state.
No, but there's a permit to, or, I don't quite understand the law, maybe somebody wants to look into it, if you have to have a permit to even have the boat or on a lake.
That's for the operation.
That's for operating.
Yeah,
Oh,
to
it's for
operate it, but to sell it,
operation.
you have to have, as Mr. Lick was stating,
Oh, s-
they have to have a license, which they will obtain. That's what they need to sell them, or to.
So they don't need the permit.
They don't have to worry about driving them and who's buying them, as far as that,
They wouldn't try them out
their
or nothing?
legality is concerned with having a license that's issued by the department, saying that they can do this.
Okay, I was just checking.
Yep,
All right, thank you.
yes, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say that.
Okay.
Watercraft operators permit
Permit.
license.
I'd like to address, if I could.
Yes, if you could state your name and address to Kayla.
Tim Derrick, 28145 128th Street Northwest, Zimmerman. I'm Tim Derrick, Thank you. I'm the property owner to the south of John and Megan Clover. I may be at a little disadvantage, but I did receive a letter notifying us of a one-sentence item for the interim use property permit. And I called Kayla Monday. The packet wasn't even posted until Monday afternoon after I asked. It's very lean. Doesn't really address any limitations. So I had a lot of concerns. My property is right to the south. From the display area, my front door, my playground, my fire pit is all within 100 feet of the display area. So I put together a letter. I recommend that the interim use permit be denied based on these comments and observations. The display area does not comply with the city ordinance setback of 150 feet of the ordinary high water level. The distance between that property and the lake is approximately 160 feet. The accessory building doesn't comply with the city ordinance setback of 20 feet. The accessory building is approximately 5 feet from the property line. The display area, the bulk quantity, display area size is in question. Display area, is it only restricted to boats or is there other items for sale? I heard John and Megan very heartfelt, trying to help people. Okay, now will there be trucks? Will there be ATVs? The interim use permit doesn't address that. I would assume they address this, but if you have property out there, more than likely they're gonna eventually want security lighting. That's right on my front door, right where, sitting on my deck. The interim use permit talks about a 20-foot setback for the display area. How is that addressed regarding the boats? So does that mean the 20 feet between the display area and my property line, that the boat can't be over that? It doesn't address that. Other concerns I have is pollution of noise, the proximity to our house. Just talking. I'll get into this later, but regarding the hours. Come home, I try to have nice dinner with my family, sitting on our deck, and I'm hearing people talk and negotiate about a boat. They start it up. Boats don't have mufflers. They start it up out of the water, they're very loud. Even a small boat. If I'm buying a boat, I'm gonna wanna test the horn, the radio, the lights. I'm within 100 feet of that, having dinner with my family. Questions about servicing and maintenance, John seemed to address that. Power washing, it's noisy. It's one thing, you have normal activities, I power wash. But now it's not a business. They're not running boats through there power washing. So the existing rural residential character of the neighborhood residence scenery would be adversely affected, which is against the city's comprehensive plan. The boat display area is in direct line with my front of the neighboring house, deck, playground, outdoor fire pit. Scenery is affected by a line of boats, possibly shrink wrapped. I had a comment in here about the restroom. They seem to address it. But if they're at the display area, I mean, guys will be guys. If there's woods there, they're facing right towards my family. Hours of operation. Why would it be anything other than normal business hours? 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Again, I'm coming home, I'm trying to have a nice dinner with my family. And this business is going on within 100 feet of me. In the interim use permit, it mentions 7 to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday. That doesn't preserve the character of the city's comprehensive plan for the neighboring residents due to the previous stated comments and various noise pollution, lighting concerns, and boats becoming the new scenery in the close proximity of the neighboring residents. Also, what is the environmental impact of the business? Be the health and scenic views on the Lake Catlin. Again, very heartfelt. I hear John address this. Oh, this is a hobby. The interim use permit doesn't address that. It doesn't, it's wide open. Other concerns could be you're getting boats in. Put them in the lake, you're not cleaning them, you're transferring invasive species. The interim use permit doesn't address the duration of the permit. Would it become permanent? I'm not non-pro-business, but I believe this is. It's mentions helping people. But what he's doing is taking away business from the commercial businesses that do this for a business. That they pay payroll, they pay taxes, they pay overhead. Talk about small in scale, 4 to 6 boats. They currently have 3 boats. Now you're talking 9 boats. Yes, it's a 20-acre parcel, but it's probably less than 5 acres of land. I'd just like to add to, please be respectful and courteous of your neighbors. Thank you for your time, consideration. I've been here close to 35 years. I'm the original. I bought that land to Randy Hansen, raised a family there. We extremely enjoy this area. But by allowing this business is affecting the residential rural of it.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. At this time, I would like to ask if there's anyone else who has any comments or questions? Anyone else, any comments or questions? Yes, please feel free to approach the podium, state your name and address.
Good evening, I'm Dan Yeager. I live at 12440 284th Avenue, Northwest in Zimmerman. So we are relatively new to this lake. I just actually met John and Megan a couple of weeks ago. And what that map doesn't show is the connection to the rest of Cantlin Lake, where all combined, I think there's about 30, 40 lake homeowners. And so the only concern I have, I just recently found out about this, the only concern I have is the lake use for the potential of test driving. And I haven't heard that addressed. I apologize, we came in a couple minutes late, so if it was mentioned, I'd just like some clarity on that, how the applicant might plan on using the lake for test drives and so on. It is a small lake. You know, we just recently had a community get-together on the lake, and several lake owners are concerned about how the lake is used and you know, just that quiet use. It's a great lake. It's small, though. And so that would be a concern that we would have as a neighbor on the lake. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Mr. Chair, unless there are any other public comments, the interim use permit does say the outdoor sales and display is for boats only. And our recommendation is that the planning commission limit the number of boats. And that would also be confined to the 1,800 square foot area. The setback would be 20 feet from the display area to the south property line, 150 feet to the ordinary high water mark, 67 feet to the road right of way. They'll have to provide a certificate of survey showing that dimension and that the outdoor sales area would comply with that before they put the surface down. Also compliant with the impervious surface limits. Lighting, the town has an ordinance that addresses that. Part of it is we don't repeat all the underlying ordinances that are included in the zoning ordinance, so anything addressing environmental contamination, lighting, signage, et cetera, it's not specifically outlined in that. And again, with respect to the timing of the interim use permit, the zoning ordinance specifies events that trigger its expiration. The planning commission and city council can impose a date certain if you choose to do so. But the expectation is if they're satisfying the criteria for approval of the interim use permit, then that can continue until one of those established three conditions is met. With regard to the operation of the business in terms of the use of the or the lake access on the property and whether there'd be test driving and how they would handle the invasive species and removal, I think that's something best for the applicant to address.
Okay, anyone else have any comments or questions at this time? Yes. Please state your name and address to Kayla.
Mr. Chairman and members, my name is Brian Erickson. I'm at 28649 117th Street Northwest on Cantlin Lake. Have been on the lake for a long time. Recently, we're in front of you to redo and do a new house, which we have finished, by the way. It's just, thank you very much. My wife is very happy. Having said that, I echo the thoughts of Dan Yeager. In terms of the lake use, and that is a very shallow portion of the lake, the whale's tail as we refer to it. The main part of the lake is small as well. My concern is that the interim use permit, the documentation that came with it, doesn't address even sizes of boats. How big of a boat you can have on the property to sell, or in this case, again, wondering how many boats are gonna go into the water, because there is, and there is a ramp on the property, they can put a boat down just for someone who wants to make sure that it works properly, and we just would like to see those things addressed, if the commission decides to approve this interim use permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, does anyone else have any comments or questions at this time?
After
That's what yep, I'm gonna call you up. Anyone else have any comments or questions? Yes. Please state your name and address to Kayla.
Hi, I'm Peggy Patton, 28641 127th Street Northwest. I've lived on the lake for 56 years. I guess my biggest thing is, we do clarity checks on this lake, we do invasive species checks on this lake, so I'm more concerned with if they're gonna be doing detailing on these boats before anything goes in the water, that we aren't introducing something else into this lake that right now is one of the cleanest lakes in Sherburne County. So I think that's one of our biggest concerns, is just to maintain what we have and to keep it. So that's my spiel.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have anything they'd like to state? Questions or comments? Anyone else? Else? Jonathan or Megan, if you would approach the podium, please. Anything you would like to say?
Absolutely, yeah. So as far as and I'm glad you guys asked about the invasive species and that part of the lake. Again, we care about the lake so much. Would never want to have anything susceptible to that. Done my research on zebra mussels, how long a boat needs to stay out of the water if it's been in a lake that's contaminated with anything like that. We know exactly how many days they need to be out of the water. Most of the boats that we acquire are already out of the water anyway. Typically we'll get them from storage areas, things like that. Use a scissors trailer to lift them up off of the dry area, bring them home. First thing we do is clean them anyway. We won't have any boats that have any tanks, like ballast systems, like wake boats. And if we ever had anything like that, we would go through all the motions to make sure it was out of the water for the correct period of time before you even open that door, because I don't want anything to happen to that lake. We love the lake, we respect the lake. I can assure you all, you will not have to worry about that with us. So that's huge. Something else I wanted to touch base with, as far as noisy motors, I mean, I don't like running motors out of the water. It's not actually good for them. I prefer to run them in the water. If you run a 4-stroke motor out of the water with the earmuffs on, it's for a short period of time. It does not make a lot of noise. It's quieter than a chainsaw, a snowmobile, a skid loader, which all my neighbors, including myself, have. I mean, we cut trees, we mow our grass, we do those types of things, and we'll be respectful with the power washing and things like that. I mean, I've never had a complaint, and I've always been able to power wash, or my son's been able to power wash his dirt bike or anything like that. I mean, I don't foresee it really changing anything that's already existing. So I don't think anyone will have to worry about anything like that. So
I think the one thing, being respectful, like when you're doing stuff, cleaning, anything that creates a lot of noise, if you're able to contain that, even if the hours of operation are, right now it's just 7 to 10. But you wouldn't push the limits when you're doing noisy stuff, and it wouldn't be 9:30 on a Tuesday night, and you're like, let's call them power wash something. You'd be respectful, because if there's a business hours of operation, that's set to make sure that you two can operate a business in favor of you, but we're also trying to limit the hours to make sure we're respectful of the neighbors. So when you have things that are noisy, we can't specify all this stuff and have gray areas. We just have to simply say, these are the hours of business, but we would be concerned if you had a lot of noisy stuff. I mean, the noise of the motors. I know you live off of 169. I have never been back to your houses, so I don't know what the noise is there. I know we live a mile off, and we can hear vehicles sometimes go by. So we know there's a lot of noise created there. So it's not like a pristine area in the middle of nowhere where the slightest noise, but also being respectful of your neighbors. If you create a ton of noise, well, that's disrespectful to them. So for us to try to weigh it between, there's already noise created by the 169, but you're not creating noise and stuff. the scenic as well, when that was brought up about this, you know, scenery. You know, with anything, if you're with a building, with boats, with property, but it's also, Cal mentioned it too, like the reclamation projects where you have boats laying around, parts laying around, where it's a mess. Because even if everything is compliant, if it looks like a mess, that's also a concern for everybody. This also reflects on Baldwin. If this is recommended for approval from the city council, and if they would approve it, we want to make sure that it reflects well upon Baldwin, that we're not approving something that it's an eyesore. And as well, so we have to consider all that. We're a recommendation committee. We recommend to the city council, but we want to do our due diligence. So when they see it coming from us, we've tried to answer all the questions of you as well as the neighbors. So that is a concern, as you've heard, noise, you know, scenic, the water. That's a very good concern. You said that wouldn't be an issue.
I respect that, and, you know, I would be more than happy to give out my phone number to all the neighbors, and if anyone has a problem with any noise or would like to reach out to me, call me, you know, I'll respect everybody. I mean, if someone says, oh, you're making too much noise, it's 9 o'clock, I'm trying to eat dinner, it's 6 o'clock, I'm trying to eat dinner, I'll respect it, you know, I'm not looking to irritate anybody, you know.
Mr. Miller.
I just had a question for clarification. So you said you just clean boats, you don't repair anything. So why would you be running the motor and everything if you're just cleaning a boat?
Running the motor? Well, I'm just as far as saying if someone wants to buy a boat, a lot of times they're gonna wanna hear the motor run just to make sure that it runs okay,
And
things
would you,
like that.
then you would put it in the lake for them to
Yeah.
test? Okay.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes with a boat motor, it's good to test the motor before you put it, you know, hook earmuffs up to it, just to make sure that the water's pumping through the motor correctly, to make sure it's cooling properly and things like that, but.
And then your other 3 boats that you have, they're on dock
Yeah,
at
that's,
the lake?
I'm glad you brought that up. That was something I wanted to say too. So typically my boats that I own are kept in the water, and from no property other than the lakeside, I don't think you could even see those boats because they're down the hill in the water tied to a dock. I mean, that won't affect anybody, so.
Yes, Commissioner Schmuck.
I guess I have 2 concerns about the test driving. So will you be washing the boats every time you take the boats out of the water?
As far as taking them out of the water, washing them off?
So they're ready for sale, ready to go in another lake, pre-washed, ready to rock and roll?
I mean, yeah, I can. I know boats coming out of our lake come out pretty clean because our lake is so clean, but if, you know, and they would be out of the water for a period of time, but if someone was going out of the water and headed straight to another lake, I think that's actually up to them to disclose to the next lake where they were last and when the boat was last in the water. That's what the DNR now requires from what
But I guess I do have 2 other concerns, that I'm worried about it turning into a marina, for one thing. And then I'm worried about the size of the boats.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like big pontoons, small pontoons.
Yeah, typically just small pontoons, no large power boats. It's such a small lake, you can't get a really large boat in there.
I had one other quick one. What's making you, so it's a hobby, well, why do you want to take this transition to go professional?
Because I've helped so many family members already, they're all saying, well, gosh, can you help me clean this? It's just, you know, neighbors calling, friends calling, family calling, and saying, you know, we'd love to have you help us out. And at that point, it's nice to do favors for people and receive favors back, but I would rather just do it.
And the reason I bring it up is I do auto repair just like
Yeah.
across the highway from you, so I
Sure.
know how fast a favor can turn into something a lot more dirtier than that.
Right, and you know what, I'd rather do things by the book, and, you know, if it's something that we can do to make a little extra money on the side, you know, it's.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do you have a lake association?
No.
Tim or Darcy Derrick here tonight?
He's the one who spoke.
Tim just spoke.
That was Tim who just spoke, the first one who spoke.
He spoke right after me.
Yeah.
Mr. Derrick.
Oh, okay. So, yeah,
You can't address, you can only address who's at the podium.
I'm gonna address.
Okay, okay.
Are there other people that use the lake, other boats that use the lake?
And as far
People
as,
come in and go, does the lake have a public ramp?
no, it does not have a public access, so it's pretty much only used by the residents. Yep, unless that resident allows someone else to use the lake, which I don't think people really do.
Does everybody in the neighborhood have a lawnmower?
As far as I know,
Does everybody use their lawnmower? Does everybody use their power washer? Recreation vehicles, motorcycles, or anything like
absolutely.
that?
Yeah, I got neighbors that love snowmobiles that have much louder,
Motorcycles pollute
make
the
a lot
air?
more noise than boats.
Motorcycles pollute. Thank you, I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Mr. Smock, you had your hand up real quick.
Yeah, I forgot my question.
I hate when that happens.
It'll come back to me in a
There
minute.
was something I wanted to say and I forgot too, so am I forgetting something? Okay. Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I am going to, since I asked 3 times if anybody else had any comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public portion of the meeting. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, the public portion of this meeting has been closed. You could take a seat. If we would need a question, we would ask you, but otherwise it's been closed, the public
Thank you.
portion. Okay, at this time, questions, comments? Any of you 3?
Anybody, excuse me, Mr. Chair, does anybody have any decibel reading on how loud a pressure washer is with a gasoline engine? So,
Mr. Miller?
I was just gonna ask, if it were to be approved, could we add a condition? Or maybe it's not necessary. He stated that they would not be stored over the winter. So it wouldn't turn into like a storage area over the winter. I don't know if we could add that.
Mr. Chair, the planning commission could add a condition that says no boats shall be displayed or stored within the display area between October 1st and May 1st.
Would that
Yeah.
satisfy your?
Yeah, because I don't want it to change from a consignment to a storage area. Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Chair, is any of that, what your concerns are, is any of that, let's, considered a violation of the interim use permit?
Mr. Chair, if it was stated as a condition, then it would be. Otherwise, if they're parked there without a condition, then no.
We given do we have a specific amount of boats that can be in his possession at any one time?
Mr. Chair, so we didn't specify one. The applicant said they would have 4 to 6 boats typically.
4 to 6?
4 to 6 is what he said, so the planning commission can consider that number, use that number, reduce that number, double that number. It's your discretion.
Whatever number we come up with, is that gonna include boats that are in the water, or is that gonna be just ones that are in the display area?
Mr. Chair, I'd recommend that it be boats on the property under consignment, so that it's limited to whether they're in the display area or the water.
Thank you.
Any other questions? What do you think is an appropriate number when he states 4 to 6? What do you think is an appropriate number?
I think 3.
3 to 5? What's yours?
Period.
3 period?
And I'm going off my own permit for my business. I can only have 3 vehicles to be waiting to be worked on. And that's just, I mean, that's residential. That's why I go off my own basis.
Okay.
I use that as a
But
basis.
you have 1 in the shop and 3 waiting?
Yep.
So it's technically.
I could have 5 stacked on top of each other in the shop.
There's only 3 outside. You felt 3 was,
I had written down 3.
okay. And what was your reason for that?
Just for the neighboring property, I think 3 would be enough to be stored outside.
Okay. How do you feel? What do you feel is a fair number?
Well, you know, I think 3 or 4 is probably fair. I see other motivations going on here, and I it's not gonna bring
Okay. Is it relevant to the discussion and it should be brought up or
I
not?
think it is. I think it is. And what I see going on here is not a question of, how many boats is important. I think that's an important thing, that ours certainly are. What I see in my mind is that the community just doesn't want a business on the lake. And instead of giving all of this nonsense here, and forgive me for calling it what I see, just admit that you don't want a business on the area and go by that. This man has, for all practical appearances, done his best to ameliorate any of the questions that have come up. And I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that's on this document here, because if all of this is true, then if you run your lawnmower at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, you're in violation here. If you have a power washer or a loud weed whipper, you're in violation. None of it has anything different than a boat motor. They're very quiet these days. The only thing I can see on here is that there is no ramp, no public ramp to the lake, and that is a valid issue. But that's about the only one I see.
That was my other question about how do you get a ramp on the lake? Do you gotta pay the DNRs or?
Mr. Chair, perhaps if Jonathan could come back to the podium for a moment. Do you know when the ramp was put in?
Do you know when it was put in? I mean, it was there when we moved in. It wasn't, and we've just made improvements to it. And when we moved into the lake, everyone's like, well, how do you get the boats in the lake? And all the neighbors are like, oh, yeah, there's your access. And everybody uses their property. There's actually several accesses on the lake. People have ramps, different style ramps that they use to just basically maintain their yard, because it gets soft. If you go in and out of the lake, you're just gonna rut everything up and disturb the shoreline. So we just wanted to make something that wouldn't disturb it, and it's been working well.
Mr. Chair, so just to be clear, it was there when you bought the property?
Well, the area that was used was there, and you could tell it was used, and we just improved it.
Did you get any permits to make the improvements along the shoreline from the DNR Sherburne County at the time?
Well, the person who did it pulled the permit. And there's multiple, there's at least, I think, 6 to 7 people that have.
Mr. Chair, the reason I'm asking is we understand there's a ramp there. We just want to make sure that it was legally placed, both for your private use as well as if it's used as part of the business, so.
I understand.
Anything else for Jonathan? Thank you very much.
Yep.
Could I address?
Thank you.
No, public portion has been closed. Real quick, I understand the 3. You just had 3 because you thought 3. You said 3 because that's what you can have
Yeah.
but a much different kind of business, because you can go through everything daily or maybe.
Yeah, and really, the foundation was what's gonna be outside? What are the neighbors gonna see? And it was the idea of that they're only gonna see 3 vehicles. And so, I mean, it wasn't nothing to do with how much can I get done. I mean, if anything, it's definitely limited my ability for income over the years, but that was something I knew going into it too, so.
How do you feel about the number? Because I can understand possibly going a little higher, just from the standpoint of it's not coming in and they're working on it and then someone's picking it up the next day. If it's a consignment and it's gonna be sitting there, having 4 or 5, I don't feel is unfair, because it's that kind of business where people will come and look at it. If it was something where they were turning something daily or weekly, then having a smaller number like 3 is understandable. So
I guess I kinda don't see the difference, because even in mine, I mean, a car could leave and someone's gonna replace it, that's it. So there's always gonna be that 3 number there. So I mean, I think even in this case, if we make it 6, I feel like there's gonna be 6 always there. You're gonna have whatever he's got on property, and maybe he owns four-wheelers and stuff like this, and I mean, pretty soon, it might be, I'm just saying, for the neighbors that close, I'm lucky that my neighbors are not that close. And that's probably the only reason I was really able to get away with it, because my neighbors are not that close. But I can see, and I tell you what, I had neighbors stop by my yard, take pictures of me working on cars, right in the yard right there, just to try to catch me doing something. And, yeah.
It's open for, if a motion is made, I feel 4 or 5. I could happily settle at 4, just because of the type of business it is. I think 6 is too much, because it's a jump from what you have 3 to say 6, but I'm comfortable, but, the hours of, so that'll have to be something if, yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, before you move to hours of operation. So I have the 5th condition revised as outdoor sales and display upon the property shall be limited to 3 licensed and operable consigned boats within a defined area that complies with setback requirements of the R1 district, shoreland overlay district, and is surfaced with class 5 materials.
That was number 5.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so number 5, in the possible actions, number 5, he put 3 in for the amount. Just to keep that in mind. Now, as far as the business hours of operation, we have, right now it says 7 to 10, Monday through Saturday.
Mr. Chair, this might be a little off subject, but we have a noise ordinance for like ATVs and that kind of a thing. And I think like the power washer, I think probably falls into that category. And what was that? It was like so many hours continuously with like an hour break and then another 4 hours continuously. So I guess I'm a little less concerned about the noise pollution thing because of the ordinance we have in place.
Mr. Chair, that with the hour break was a limitation specific to ATVs. The general noise regulations, such as mowing your lawn, that's 7 AM to 7 PM.
So how does everybody feel about the business hours? How do you feel about the business hours, 7 to 10?
I guess I'm more of an 8 to 5, I think, on this one too. And for the same reasons that I'm living in, for the same reason, noises and all the things, so.
The gentleman who's trying to get the interim use permit said he would only work 9 to 5 or something. What was it you said?
Please.
Yes, please. He said till 9. He didn't need it
What
till
was your
10.
time frame that you said?
I'm open to what people say, but I mean, I was just wondering if, I wasn't saying pressure washing at 9 o'clock.
No.
I respect all the neighbors. If our power washer is bothering anybody, I ask them to call me. That way I can know what's inappropriate and we'll respect it.
What is a fair business hour to you? 9 to 5?
I mean,
10 to 5?
As far as business hours as running the pressure washer, I mean, I don't think 7 o'clock would be too late to run. I mean, I don't get home till 6, so if I'm gonna mow my grass, I'm mowing from 6 to 8 o'clock just to mow my grass. And my mower is a 0-turn mower and it's way louder than my pressure washer. And as far as one other thing I wanted to say too is, I know the number of boats and we're open to whatever you guys prefer, but our house is tucked way back and it's surrounded by woods, so when you drive past our driveway, you can't see what's on our property. And even from the neighbor's driveway right now, I think it's very difficult to even see what's on our property. So I just want you guys to kind of visualize what our property is like. It's not in a neighborhood in the open, so.
You said you don't get home until 6.
Quite often don't get home from work till 6 on the weekdays.
So
Yeah,
I
so
would be typically.
she'll be
during the
home, so
day.
she would probably be cleaning them during the
So, yeah,
day.
during the day is when I would
Yeah.
do the cleaning or things like that. That is necessary. The only thing that would go on, I could see later would be if there was somebody that wanted to come look at a boat later.
That's my question is,
That may be, if they,
that's business, so if we say 8 to 5, you can't,
I would prefer to be present if someone
Right,
wants
and
to look at a
that's-
boat and wants to hear it run. It's just, that's kind of something I'd like to be present for.
But-
right, no, and that's totally understandable. I mean, I think
Yeah.
anybody who owns a business would be like, well, I'm not home till 6. It's like, well, you have to operate by 5. not fair
Yeah,
to a
so
business owner, so I think I mean, that's just a recommendation based on a recommendation for business hours. After hearing that you're not home till 6, and you like to be there, both of you, whatever, it's like extending business hours to a later time, certainly we can look at that.
And I'd say, yeah, anything
appreciated.
really noisy or disruptive, like a power washer, if you count that as noise, I would do that during the day. You know, the loud kind of stuff would be more so me working on that during the day, and anything like later than that would typically be if he showed somebody a boat at night, and that's a very quiet thing, you know? So,
Okay.
whatever you guys see fit, we can make work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep,
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Is there any way, because it's hard to limit that by saying, well, you can conduct noisy business until 5, but you can conduct other business till 8 or 9. You have to simply state if the hours of operation are 8 AM to 9 PM, just throwing out numbers, not just saying 8 AM to 9 PM. We can certainly ask that they keep their noisy, as much of their noise as they would before 5. But we're not gonna, we wouldn't write that up where we would, because otherwise we have to start breaking down every single thing they do.
Mr. Chair, so since it is so specific to the exception being a boat showing by appointment,
Okay.
you could write the hours of operation shall be limited to 8 to 5 PM, except that boat showings by appointment only may be allowed between 5 and 8, 5 and 9.
Okay, that I think would be fair. We did that, because that's just simply that, whether that's once a week, twice a week, once a month, whatever, I mean, that's acceptable to run a business.
And if it gets to be excessive and we hear about this,
That. Anything else anybody had here of you three, questions, comments, or anything regarding the 10 conditions?
do we want to limit the size of the boats? Do we want to put language in there about that? Just in case a yacht shows up and,
You can do that too.
it'd be profitable.
Under 24 feet. Fine, guys.
24.
24 feet?
24 would be the biggest, the largest, we don't ever really see those.
24 feet? Put some verbiage in there for that.
Mr. Chair, so condition 5 would now read, outdoor sales and display upon the property shall be limited to 3 licensed and operable consigned boats under 24 feet in length within a defined area that complies with the setback requirements of the R1 district and Shoreland Overlay District to be surfaced with Class 5 materials.
Okay, then number 6 would say business hours of operation shall be limited to 8 AM to 5 PM, Monday through Saturday, with the exception of by appointment only showings from 5 PM till 9 PM. Okay. Does that sound fair to you three? To start with? Okay. Any more discussion, or we have 3 options as far as a motion?
For the existing conditions that we have here.
Recommend approval for city council?
Mr. Chair, that'd be conditions as amended.
Okay, it's conditions as amended. Okay,
Amended, yes.
okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Okay, we will recommend approval with the amended conditions to the city council. You and anyone else will need to be at the next city council meeting, which is?
Mr. Chair, the next city council meeting at which this will be considered is July 7th at 7 o'clock in this room.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to letter E, new business. We have a second driveway request. It's in your packet. And that is why Sam and Shane are here. It is a second driveway review on 29010 100th Street. Mr. Lick, should I turn it over
Mr.
to
Chair,
you?
since the city engineers are here, I'll let them talk.
Here we go. We'll defer to both of you, Sam and Shane, whoever you want to take it, please go from here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We actually just sent out a memo on our recommendations of this review earlier this week. Based off I don't have the memo on hand with me, but per city ordinances, they're specific. Right here, thank you. So per city ordinance, there's certain things that second accesses to properties have to meet. This property met all of them except for one, being which a second access or driveway to a property is not allowed on collector designated streets, which 100th Street is designated as a collector. So based off that alone, this would not be, this wouldn't meet that criteria. However, we do have traffic counts for this road, as this is part of the road we're looking into constructing. It only sees about 286 vehicles a day. So in our eyes, looking at it, a collector that sees under 300 vehicles a day would be a better candidate for getting a second driveway as compared to a collector seeing over 1,500 cars a day. So Hawkinson Anderson, I know, would not be opposed if council or this committee wanted to accept a second driveway for this property. And if so, we would expect it to be constructed per the ordinances within Ordinance 100, Section 1.08, Parts 4 through 8.
As far as the 180 feet that it states in the upper left corner, 180 feet, I can't really read what that says. 180 feet to the border or street or?
Other driveway?
Oh yeah, it does say next, and it does look like it could be driveway. Okay. I can see just the top of
Yeah.
third of each letter. It's like,
Yeah.
there's enough there to make it driveway, but, which that also meets what we need, because it doesn't have to be 150, or is it 100 the next driveway, the rule?
That was 150.
Thought it was 150 also. Okay, so 180 does meet that as well, so there's no concern there. Yes,
What are we asking for here? A change or a permission, or what are we asking for?
Mr. Chair, so this is a request for a second driveway. First driveway is subject to review by the engineer. Second driveway requires a review by the planning commission and approval of the city council.
We have a certain distance between them
Correct.
that we have to maintain,
Correct.
unless we acquiesce and do something otherwise.
Yes. So the city engineer's review is that it meets all the spacing requirements. The exception here is that this is a collector street, to which the ordinance says you should only have one driveway. But based on the limited traffic volume on this roadway, there isn't a functional concern about allowing a second driveway.
So, let me get this straight, Mr. Chair. If we have, what is our distance between driveways?
150 feet.
And this is 105. Says here on the drawing, 105.
But that'd be between his own.
Between
driveways.
His own.
it's his own driveways.
It's not a neighboring driveway, it's his own driveway.
Where's the neighboring driveway?
180 feet that way.
Okay, but between his driveways is 150 feet, or is it, doesn't matter?
105.
It's 105. Doesn't matter what the closeness is. There's
What is
no-
it between your own driveways for the driveways? What's the rule between his two driveways, the first and the second? What is the actual distance? Is there a minimum?
I don't know that ordinance off the top of my head.
Mr. Chair, I'm looking that up right now.
I feel like we don't have one because the second driveway really isn't supposed to exist, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's being placed in a spot where it fits.
Fits.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that we'll find out if there actually is a minimum. Because we always try to place it where if there is one, it's there for a reason, whether it's,
We've got-
usually it's an
got
extra
enough on
building.
both sides to have another one. I mean, if, as far as the neighbors, his second driveway is far enough away from his neighbors. But is there a distance in between there, where even on your own property, you have to have a certain distance?
I know one time we had something where someone wanted to put it in, and we were like, because it was fairly close going to it, we said, is there any way you could come here to the building? Because just it was the looks. Is there
Mr.
anything?
Chair, so the way the ordinance reads, and this is in the zoning ordinance, it's the minimum distance between any two driveways to a public street is 75 feet.
75 feet.
Correct.
It's good to
Yeah,
know,
we're
75.
good to go.
Okay, so we're good with that. So basically you were here because everything met, as Mr. Lick was saying, except for the fact, and you had stated that you have 280 vehicles or 286 vehicles, so it has to be 300 or less, and then you can actually, well,
We're not saying that's an exact number,
Yeah.
but it does, that is pretty low traffic volume.
for a connector.
If the council or this committee were to make an exception.
Okay, okay.
Mr. Chair, basically, as the traffic volumes increase, as you have more traffic on a roadway, the more we're gonna recommend against a second driveway.
Yep.
So 286 cars is relatively low
Yeah.
for a collector road. You know, it wouldn't be uncommon for collector streets to see 1,500 cars per day or more. That's why we kind of use that number. And so if you're gonna make an exception, this is probably a road where you could consider making that exception.
Yeah, because I know connectors, and that we've been talking about in the past, that's frowned upon just for that reason, is there's so many 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 cars. So it's like, well, it's too much traffic, you really need a second, but if there is only 300 or less, that's no more than just any other small private.
Mr. Chair, that brings up another question to me, is if the distance between two driveways on your property is 75 feet, then what do we care if he has two driveways, as long as he meets all the other things? You're saying that it can't be, we can't use that.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So that was recommended by the planning commission and approved by the city council, that if there was requests for second driveways, that it be reviewed by the planning commission and approved by the council.
Well, yeah, but, I'm
We want to know
sorry.
about every second driveway base.
Yeah, well, what, somebody said, you said, second driveway is 75 feet.
Yes.
That puts us 105. Now, this gentleman just said something different, I think.
No.
No?
No, sir.
So,
Okay. Well, then I heard
Mr. Chair?
something different.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the only issue with this request is that it's to what's defined as a collector street, which the ordinance says you should only have one driveway per
All
property.
right, okay.
What the engineers are saying is the traffic volume is so low, even though it's a collector street, the second driveway is not gonna interfere with traffic.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with the driveways, it has to do with the collector street. All right.
Yep.
Got it. That's correct.
Yes.
I have a question for Shane. Shane, is there the speed limit criteria, 150 feet between accesses as part of a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit criteria along with traffic? There used to be. Is that still something that's widely used as the discretion for 150 feet?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure where, if there was a requirement for that, I'm not sure where that come from. I mean, I've heard of stopping sight distance used as a criteria for spacing of intersections or just for spacing of accesses, but a stopping sight distance for 55 miles per hour is gonna be closer to 300 feet, maybe even 500 feet. It's gonna be a longer distance if you're going 55 miles an hour to come to a stop. 150 feet, I think that'd probably be like a 35 mile per hour speed or something a little bit lower.
So if we had a road that had stop or driveways within 150 feet, a whole bunch of them, that would begin then to reduce the speed limit on that, correct? Say it's not posted at the moment, and we crept up to that by allowing a bunch of driveways to happen, we would ultimately begin to reduce the speed limit on that road.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, so I think what Mayor Swanson is discussing, so there are actually a couple of statutory speed limits. And, you know, generally the statutory speed limit on a rural road is 55 miles per hour. And that rural road is defined as visible dwelling units at 300-foot spacing or more, or 300 feet in between driveways. So that's a statutory speed limit. Or I'm sorry, 55 mile an hour actually might be a quarter mile. And then 35 mile per hour is 300 feet. And then there's another statutory speed limit for 30 mile per hour and 25 mile per hour. So I don't think allowing a second driveway changes the speed limit for a single driveway. It changes it when you have a lot of driveways or a lot of houses for a quarter mile or more.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So just to follow up and make this more complicated, now I'm looking at the right-of-way ordinance, which says, no access shall be located closer than 150 feet to the intersection of pavement with a collector or arterial road, or another access on the same side of the roadway from a collector or arterial road. So that would require 150-foot spacing between driveways on this
Collector
roadway.
road.
Yep.
So what if other people wanted to put in second driveways on that collector road? Would that cause a problem then?
Mr. Chair, I'd look to the engineers for their expertise.
Would that cause a problem if we, like, if you approve this and other people want to put in second driveways?
Yeah, our opinion on this type of roadway is, especially with the traffic volumes, is that the number of accesses isn't really gonna affect the mobility on the roadway. As you increase that functional level, it certainly does. For example, you would never wanna have private accesses on a freeway, because a freeway's purpose is purely to move traffic. And as soon as you start introducing, driveways and people have to slow down, you know, to make that turn, it's gonna affect the movement of traffic. On this type of roadway, it's normal to have some accesses onto it. With new development, we try to limit those number of accesses. But when, you know, the property lines are there and it's difficult to change them. And if, you know, a handful of new accesses are put in on this road over the next 20 years, it's not gonna significantly change the character of the road.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Are they gonna be paving the right-of-way area, from the place, I guess, where the city would own? Are they gonna be paving that area? Are we gonna be asking of that, or is it just gonna be class 5?
Mr. Chair, they would be required to pave within the right of way.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I guess I'd like to recommend approval with further discussion, if necessary.
What do you mean by that?
That I'd like to recommend approval. I'm looking for a second, but I'm also knowing that there could be continued discussion.
There always is. Okay, so you make a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a second.
What is your motion?
To approve.
To approve, yeah, approve. Second.
We have a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Looks like it's good. Now, before you two gentlemen leave, we do have a gentleman who may have questions for, do you have any questions for them on anything? Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I guess you're here because of my persistence.
This is Commissioner Marshall.
I want to know, and we're a planning commission, and I'm sorry, there's something going on outside here, and I'm kind of watching it out of the corner of my eye. It seems like we're in a growth period here, which is a good thing. So my question is, how much growth can we have, and this is a ballpark question, how much growth can we have before we start affecting the water table? And so I asked our planner, what is the current water table? Where is it now? What can we expect per house? And at what point do we start affecting the water table? So that's my question. I just want to know, as we approve these large plots or plats, how do they affect the water table? How do they affect the water table with the sewage systems and all of that stuff? It all goes down. So those are my questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we'll do our best to answer the question, but it's, I mean, this is a very complex, question, and so I'm gonna have to speak with some generalities. So in general, I think, when we're in regions like Baldwin, where we have sandy soils, we have a lot more recharge of our groundwater than in other areas. If you compare Baldwin to, say, a metro city, the metro city is gonna pump water out of the ground, use that for drinking water. They're gonna do so with very large municipal wells that, when that pump turns on, I mean, they're pumping into maybe a 12-inch standpipe or something, and filling up a water tower. So it's gonna have a much bigger effect on drawdown of a localized area than a bunch of little pumps maybe going at the same time. The other thing to think about in the metro area is they draw that water out of the ground, they use it in their household, flush the toilet, it runs down the drain, and from there, it doesn't go back into the ground. From there, it goes into a sewer pipe, it goes to the Pig's Eye sewer plant, and then gets treated, discharged into the river. So a very different system there. Also, a lot of the, say, inside 694 ring was built pre-stormwater requirements. They did use some wetlands and existing low areas as stormwater, but they didn't have these separate stormwater areas where we might be infiltrating the stormwater into the ground. So now, in contrast with Baldwin, here we have all private wells, and then those private wells will use the water, generally goes to a septic tank and then to the drain field. And so we have some natural recharge just with that. And then also with our stormwater, because of our very sandy soils, and now because of our stormwater requirements, we are constructing a lot of infiltration basins with the new development. And, I think the MPCA has recognized the problem with pulling the water out of the ground and sending it down the river and, ending up down in Louisiana or something. I think they've recognized that problem, and so they've actually incorporated in their current permits the requirements for infiltration. In Baldwin, we naturally infiltrate because the soil is so sandy. So with that, I think that's about the best explanation I can give in generalities. As far as how much each home uses or what impact that has to the groundwater, that would be a very expensive question to answer. There probably are companies out there that'd be willing to help us answer that question, but my guess would be the cost for that would be about the size of the city's annual budget. It is not a very, and it's still, it's gonna be a model, and that's the problem, is we can't really see what's going on underground, so it's still somebody's best guess of what's happening underground.
Do we have any idea what the water table is here in this city?
Yeah, so there is some, there is some available information. And I think the answer is it's gonna vary.
I understand that.
There's actually, I just brought with one exhibit from the geological survey. And, so I apologize for the scale, but, there's kind of 5 cross sections for Sherburne County. Right here is Sherburne County. It shows the cross sections A, B. So A and B, the 2 top ones would be the cross sections probably for Baldwin. Cuts through.
That's a lot of water underground there.
Yeah, one cuts through the north side of the city and one cuts through the south side of the city. And even with these, there are just tons of fluctuations, tons of variations. In general, I think what you have is sandy soils that retain water, maybe to a depth of 100 feet, maybe a little bit more, maybe in some areas it's a little bit shallower. Somewhere you get deeper than 100 feet, maybe it's at 150, maybe it's at 180. Then you have bedrock, then the bedrock's a confining layer, and then under that, there's another aquifer. So that top layer, and I actually look, you can look on the the Department of Health and the DNR actually make well records available. So I went into the Minnesota Well Index, and I just clicked on a handful of them because I was curious about depths, and it looks like there's a lot of wells that are 70 to 80 feet deep. There was one that was 250 feet deep that I clicked on.
Really?
Yep.
That was,
26.
okay, so that was one of the two things, I'm sorry, you finished without.
No, I'm listening.
Because that was one of the two things I had to ask or say is, one is I was wondering when someone comes out to drill a well, because we've had a couple in our development that have went dry, last year, in the last 2 years, and you kind of get concerned because you're like, well, we're just an eighth of a mile down the road in our little development, so you get concerned, it's like, well, which did they hit when it's the same builder? You're like, the same well drill, did they go down and hit? Why, knock on wood, why hasn't ours went dry when theirs did? So does someone drilling, do they have something to look at to refer to for like, oh, we're east of 169 in this area, we should probably go down 120 to 150, or is it owner request? Can you literally say, no, I want you to go down 200 feet or more? How does someone drilling a well, do they have information as to know how far they should go?
Yeah, most well drillers have, maybe it's a sixth sense, I don't know. But they yeah, they have the witching stick, yeah.
Yeah, you laugh at that, but I've seen it done.
They're real. They are
I've seen it done as well.
very-
Look at this stick. Where put my water?
You know,
Anyway,
yeah, and the other thing that I think can affect the groundwater is precipitation. So
yeah.
have we had a couple of wet years? Have we been in a long period of drought? That might have a larger impact than the amount of water that's that we're using for domestic purposes.
The reason I'm concerned about this is a couple of things. Number one, I have lived on well water since 1977 in the houses that I've owned. First one, I had to go down 320 feet to get 7 gallons a minute, but it was 7 gallons a minute, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was into an underground aquifer.
Sure.
And so forth up here. Then I went to in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, where you don't get aquifers, you get fissures. I was still lucky to get 12 gallons a minute out of a fissure, and now I'm 90 feet and plenty of water. But I also remember that my dad was a builder and I'm a retired builder, and he moved to California during the building boom out there in the 60s. And he would tell me that when he got there, the water table was like 12 feet down. And when we left there, the water table was 250 feet
Oh, wow.
down. Purely, drought had one of the effects, but purely, you transferred apple orchards and farmland into little block houses that were 5 feet, 10 feet apart, using a lot of water. So I'm concerned about, I'm 83 years old, I'm not too concerned about me, but life imprisonment gets less of a deterrent every day. But I'm concerned about down the road, are we building like crazy here? And eventually, we're going to affect that water table, and should we be doing something now as a planning commission to put that off as long as we could? And that's why I asked you here. I want to know some information. You don't have it, but that's all right. The point is, it's there to find, and maybe we don't need to know it at this point.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair and Planning Commission, I think the city is already taking some steps that helps, whether it was intentional or not, with our stormwater management ordinances. So we do have, in our current city code, stormwater management ordinances, section 16, XX 16-5, page 16-6 is when they start. And so these stormwater ordinances are required to be adhered to for new development. And again, it does require infiltration for these new developments. So not only are we taking from these new homes, taking the any groundwater that's pumped up and it's kind of being recharged through the septic systems, but also we're taking the stormwater and we're storing it in stormwater basins, and because our permits require us to, or because the MPCA's guidelines require us to, that stormwater is being infiltrated into the ground. So that does help. Again, most of the wells that I've looked at seem like they're in that, there's not a confining layer. So down to 100 feet or 120 feet, it's all sand and gravel. There might be pockets of clay in there, but really there's nothing confining the water from moving down and being recharged. I think it's more of an issue if you're in that bedrock layer.
Yeah,
And you're pulling a huge volume of water from, the Mount Simon aquifer or something that's a lot deeper. And it's really hard to recharge that.
so would you say that for us as a planning commission, when we see an 80 house plat come in, that we would want to know what the bedrock or the groundwater table is, or anything about that water? Should we be concerned at all? I mean, here in our city, I can't control anything else, but we're talking about Baldwin City only. As we grow, do we need to become more and more concerned about that? Or as long as we're in the Sandy system, don't worry about it.
At this point, my recommendation would be, it wouldn't be a concern. There might, it might change in the future. And there definitely are some metro cities where it's a concern. Again, they have a different situation, which is helping in, probably exasperating that situation. And I think even in California and some of the desert states,
Oh, God, yeah.
they try to get rid of that water, or at least their old method was to try to get rid of that water as fast as possible. And, we don't want any erosion, so we're gonna make a concrete channel, and that,
Well, yeah, I can talk about that for hours.
right, and so that doesn't promote infiltration. Again, we have a much different system that does promote infiltration, and until we see some data that shows that the groundwater is going down, and it doesn't correlate with weather patterns or
We're
droughts.
collecting that periodically, that data?
So we don't collect the data, but, the DNR,
Okay.
and the Metro
Somebody does.
Council, yep. There are state agencies that monitor it.
I think the second thing I wanted to say, and I'm glad that I didn't wait until after you said it, is with all the developments coming in, it's like right now, with all especially 80 block, come in by 80 blocks, can we fit 22 houses, 23 or 24? Now, we've got the control right now of saying 2.5 acre minimum lots, so you can't go into an 80 acre lot and put, a third of an acre or, half an acre, and you can put 60 houses in there or 100 houses, so we're trying to limit it there. Mainly, we're doing it for rural. We don't want this just to be all of a sudden, it's just houses everywhere. It's a concrete jungle, but that should help control it. But there is concern. It's like, well, there's a lot of land that's available for developers, and with the thoroughfare of 169, you can literally I can leave my daughter's house in Eden Prairie, and once I hit 494, I stop in Zimmerman. And when that light's gone, it's like, so you can live in the city and go, you know what, people are working in the city, and I could live in Princeton, Baldwin, Zimmerman, this area, and I can get to my job somewhere in the city in 40 minutes now because I don't have any lights, and coming home, it's the same thing. So we have to be concerned that all of a sudden developers are gonna go snatch up that land up in Baldwin because that's a prime area to build. So we wanna make sure that we're doing what we can, but there's also information, or at least like you said, someone's keeping a track of those numbers. So if all of a sudden it would be a concern, someone would be notified that.
The reality of this, Mr. Chair, the reality of this situation is, with all due respect to developers, they don't give one hoot about the water table, about what goes on in this city. They could care less. All they care about is the money they're getting out of those houses, and boom, we're gone. So somebody has to care about it, and fortunately, we have a planning commission that I believe does. And that's why you're here. That's why I asked you to be here. And I certainly appreciate your time and your effort, and give me some information that I didn't have before.
Mr. Lick?
Mr. Chair, so I was going to make the comment you made about the density here is significantly lower than you would see even in now the rest of Sherburne County, that they allow 1 acre lots. There's also very few parcels remaining that can actually be subdivided. When you look at it from when we had that map of parcels 10 acres and larger from the incorporation showing what the development potential is, but also just the context of the pace of development, the 20 to 30 homes that are being built in Baldwin a year now may seem like a lot, and it will increase, but it's nowhere close to what's happening in Otsego, Dayton, Rogers. 300 to 400 new homes a year, so.
Now you look at what's building here a year, we built 300 houses here, and maybe 300, somebody thought I read someplace we built 58 last year, something like that. And that wouldn't be even a small tract of land in California, just a ridiculously small tract of land.
The 58 number would be what some of the bigger cities closer to the metro built during the Great Recession, so.
Anyone else have any questions or anything? Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Chair, I find this funny, whatever, because their motto used to be the solution to pollution is dilution, right?
Right.
So spread her out, right? We don't want to, but now we're going to concentrate it. In every development, we're going to concentrate it, and we're going to do those. I just wanted to make that comment. That goes against what they have stood for years.
Well,
MS4 is coming upon us too, so just to bring that up, that's.
bottom line is that all of our waste goes into the ground and we drink it the next couple of centuries later, So there you go.
Suffice it to say, and I do believe during the incorporation process, we are about 40% built out. And so if we maintain the same usage as we are now, land usage as we are now, 2.5 acre minimum, these kind of things, and we follow, which I actually said to Channel 9, whatever, when Princeton said we were going to destroy all of their drinking water. And I said, no, you're sending all the water down to Louisiana, we're putting it right back in the ground. So if we continue doing that, we're really using and replenishing at about the same time and almost the same rate. So the stormwater that you're talking about is just an added benefit by collecting it here and letting it to help replenish. So with 40% built out, think 60%, let's say half. With double what we have right now, really not, could it be safe to say, it's really not with the same usage, is not going to have much more impact than what we're seeing as it is to the groundwater and the water.
We need to know that.
True statement. I mean, obviously there'll be more people here, there's no doubt.
Right, yeah.
We're gonna be all right as long as they don't put those cement drains in. And worst thing that ever happened to California.
Okay, just with respect to time, everyone's time, does anyone else have any more questions or comments for
No,
Senator
I
Shane?
go on for hours, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the knowledge and sharing what you have.
Hope you'll come back.
Okay.
I don't think we scared you away.
No. I've seen one.
Thank you.
You're scared, huh? Well, good, I'm glad you're scared.
I had to put Commissioner Schmock between
I'll
us.
point.
I know, he's like, do I have to sit here? Okay, under new business, the new number 3 is to accept the resignation of Mr. William McGowan. First of all, I've known Bill for many, many years. I coached his daughter, helped coach his daughter, excuse me, and got to know the family, both him and Annette. Wonderful people, wonderful family. Having him on the committee, even though a lot of times he would sit and just listen, they make a lot of comments, and sometimes he would have only 1 or 2 questions. They were all very deep, and something that it was like, great question, and you're like, so some people just talk to talk. Maybe we like to hear ourselves speak. Some people just sit there, and it's like he was so very valuable. So losing him is obviously just, it's terrible to have him leave. But obviously the conditions of being diagnosed with cancer, I feel for him, I feel for Annette, I feel for the whole family, as well as anybody who's close to him. I mean, he is a wonderful human being. So there is a letter that is in our packet. Planning Commission members, in the last couple of weeks, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm now getting chemotherapy treatments. With deep regret, I need to resign from the Planning Commission because of this. The Planning Commission has great members that do very good for our city of Baldwin. I extremely enjoyed working on the commission and with very good members. If you need me to come to some meetings until you find new members, I could except for tomorrow. Once again, he's willing to fill in until we find people, so he's thinking of others before himself, so, just an absolutely wonderful human being, so, unfortunately, he does need to resign, so, entertain a motion to accept his resignation.
With deep regret, I would second that.
More discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay,
I
we'll accept his resignation.
recommend that the city council send him a letter of appreciation.
Already being done.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Okay,
He's a good man.
yeah, he's a very, very good man.
Here, here.
Okay, now we get down to the last part of new business. The new number 4 is to consider recommendation or recommendations for appointment to the planning commission. We have 3 openings, seat B and seat G, both expire in 2027, and seat E expires in 2028. We had a good discussion last week. Commissioner Smock was not here, he was out of town, or unavailable to attend. I don't know if you're out of town, but you were unavailable to attend. He was able to contact Kayla and get some viewing.
I watched the video, yeah.
Perfect. So not putting him on the spot, but just asking him what he thought of everything.
You know, so I guess off the top of my head, Mary and Teresa and Rosemary, I think were the 3 that just kind of stood out for me. But like I told you before, I thought all the candidates were excellent candidates. I thought no matter who gets the spot, I feel like we're gonna be in a good spot. So I think no matter who gets this, I think they'll complement what we already have in existence here, so.
Yeah, we had a discussion and we had, I won't speak for you two, I wrote down what you had. We had, 2 that had Teresa there. First of all, echoing what you said, the candidates were all very good. That was a nice thing too. We didn't feel like we're gonna fill spots just to fill them, because we weren't going to. We actually feel like we have more than 3 that are qualified, so that is what's nice, is if we do recommend 3, we are gonna be getting 3 good people. We did have Teresa coming in, 2 of them had her rated very highly, another one had her rated pretty good. We had Edward coming in rated very, very high on all 3. We had Abby rated very, very high on all 3. As well as Mary and Rosie. And then we had Cartrell. As far as, I made a comment at the end, I kind of also looked myself, when I looked at them, as possibly sitting in the chair position in 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, if I resign, if they're interested. I also just kind of looked at them when they were talking, both their knowledge, but how they carry themselves, their personality, everything like that. So I took that in consideration. I myself, I liked everything about Abby because of just everything about her. I had her, that's my clear number 1. I pretty much, after that, I was happy with, or I liked everybody, so there wasn't anybody that I felt strongly that shouldn't be here. I did feel, being open and honest, I did have Cartrell as my number 6.
Okay.
I didn't have him, I didn't have him as one of the 3 candidates. But, I had Abby, and so that is one that I feel very, very, very strongly for. And then after that, I would, if my recommendation would be for Abby, Teresa, and Edward. Commissioner Marshall, Commissioner Miller, anything you want to say as far as to who you would recommend if you had to pick 3?
Well, I would go along with you, but I would put Teresa Barnes in there at number 2,
Okay,
for me anyway.
okay. So you would have Abby, Teresa, and Edward as well? Or Edward, Teresa, and Abby?
And I'd put Edward in there also,
Okay,
the 3, that would be my 3.
okay. How did you feel, Commissioner Miller?
I'd go along with Teresa, Abby, and Edward. Like I said, they're all candidates were really good, and it made it really, really difficult
Yeah.
to do this. And I mean, I liked all of the candidates, but yeah, Teresa, Abby, and probably Edward.
And I can support that. If we decide that maybe those are the three that we want to go with, I definitely support that if we decide to move forward with that.
Red Cross can use the cell phone. Mr. Chair, I don't mean to interrupt, but are we done with Shane?
Oh, yes, if you two want to leave, you certainly can. I'm sorry, we
More
got,
than
we,
welcome to stay,
yeah.
right?
You're welcome. Thank you very
Enough
much.
time at meetings that we-
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, wake up.
Thank you.
I wake up every morning with good intentions and then idiots happen, you know? I'm gonna make that a plaque.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
God bless you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Possible actions would be to recommend to seats B, E, and G. Anyone like to make a motion, or I will make a motion?
I think, with all due respect, I think the chair ought to make a motion. We've got the three candidates, I think, and let the chair make a motion and
Okay.
we'll second it somewhere.
Yeah.
I will recommend Teresa then as the first one, since she was in everybody's top. And then I will recommend E, I would go, recommend seat E, Abby. And then I would go with recommending seat G, Edward. So my motion is to recommend the city council to approve the following individuals for the planning commission. Teresa Barnes to be seat B. Abby Newland to be seat E. And Edward Stofferan to be seat G.
Seat G,
Seat G, as in giraffe.
so Teresa would be seat,
B as in bear. Abby would be seat E as in egg. That is the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Smock seconded. Is that okay?
I'll third it.
Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, recommend that to the city council. We'll have that at your 7th meeting. Okay, that brings us on to old business. We have none. G, City Comprehensive Plan Unit, we have none. H, the City Council Liaison Update. Mr. Swanson, Mayor Swanson. Apologize.
Sorry. As we only had a week between then and now, but the only thing that has come up is more liquor licensing things. It seems to be, it is at the city council's discretion. We have a lot of leeway on what we can and can't do. One is background checks. Some do them religiously, some do them only on new applications. Some do them on renewals as well. But there's that, and we talked about this at the last meeting. And so, but what's new here now is financial background checks. So the state in the statute says that it is a thing to do, the financial background checks. We have the ability to do the financial background checks, but they do not stipulate in any way, shape, or form how we are supposed to do that.
Oh.
Okay, so what we are doing through our attorney and our interpretation of that is that, if we believe in the case of the ones that we already have, they've been operating for years, there's really no, first of all, it was a discussion with the council to say, that's none of our business. You know what I mean? I mean, how well they're doing financially and what their background is. I mean, if they're gonna build a building, they already had to flush that out before they came to us. You know what I mean? And if the financiers and things like that are not gonna allow them to build a building because they don't have the wherewithal to do that, then probably they're never gonna get the venue and they're never gonna come to us for the liquor license, right? Or even if they need the liquor license and that approval of that to get the funding, then we could say, yes, you could have the liquor license, but if the funding falls through, they're never gonna honor the liquor license, right? So the question it becomes is, if there is something super shady or for some reason in the future that we would need to do a financial background check, we're not gonna modify our ordinance that says we would require one. But if the people are coming, since the some that we have now, you know what I mean, there is really no reason for us to do a financial background check. that kind of a thing, whatever. So it's really not in our purview, and believe that we're doing our due diligence by not doing that, because it's not required. It's because the state doesn't stipulate, you have to go 5 years back, you have to go 1 year back, you got 10 years back. None of that. It just says this could be a requirement, literally could be a requirement. And then the way it reads is that the councils, city councils have a lot of leeway, possibilities.
Is this kind of a deterrent for like money laundering or that kind of activity?
Well, they don't even explain what that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know, Dan, if you have any background. in
No idea why. Nope.
You know what I mean? I mean, because what purview is it to us, what Ridgewood takes in a year?
Right.
I have a question for you. When, like, for coaching, they do a soft background check, they call it. I don't know if that's, because they just want to check and say, when I was coaching, when I was going to volunteer at high school, they just said, we have to do a soft background
Yes.
check, came back. Now, in one of my jobs in the military, it was, they restricted everything because it was virtually secret clearance I had. So they check everything. Is there, like, when you said it, it sounds like financial, there is no just to say, well, because when you say, are they flush with funds? It's nice to know, because if they've, I can see both sides, if they've mortgaged everything, because they say, if we get a liquor store, we're gonna make money. So they mortgage everything, well, then all of a sudden, there's a COVID outbreak, and all of a sudden, people aren't going out, and then the first 6 months, things go belly up, and they don't have the funds to survive that, because they mortgaged everything. It's not anyone's business, so I understand not allowing that, but it's nice to know that they have that 6-month or 12-month reserve. But I don't know how you could check that without, like now, like saying you don't, it's none of our business knowing what someone makes, like saying, hey, well, what do you make? Well, that's public record, isn't it? If you want to know what they made, like the golf course, if you said, well, don't they have to disclose that in their
No,
taxes?
that would be private. That's
That
not
would be
public.
private, because they're a public company, it's not public?
Correct.
Okay.
Because they're a private company, it's not public.
If it,
That's it. So let me take that one step further here. You guys just recommended approval of a boat business, right? We didn't ask them, are you sure you got the money to fund that? You know what I mean? Because, I mean, either they do or they don't, right? And so ultimately, that's gonna flush itself out. And if this were to happen, you know what I mean? That really has no purview to the city. In your scenario, let's just say, that has no purview to the city.
Okay.
Sorry, dude, you know, I mean, the world teamed up against you, you know what I mean? At this point, if it's COVID, you know, all that kind of thing, whatever, da, da, da. And we're here with you, you know, I don't know that there would be anything we could do anyway. And it's most certainly would not necessarily affect whether or not they could have a liquor license, you know? So, and if they end up losing the whole place and the place goes away, you know, I'm assuming the liquor license is gonna be at an address. So if the address now folds up and it's there, really the liquor license goes away as well. Couldn't move across town or go into some other building or whatever, you know what I mean?
So kind of on Cal's note about like a money laundering, the background check, if you're doing a background check and you see somebody has some things that might create a red flag, you'd say, well, we noticed here and here, so that would cover us as far as allowing someone to come in and open and run a business that has stuff in the past that you could say, well, who knows what they would do in the future?
Correct. And if somebody came in and he came from another town, he, she, they, this entity came in from, say, another city, whatever, da, da, da. And we found out that they had tons and tons of improprieties surrounding alcohol and the sales of alcohol at a different facility that they had. That's probably a reason for us. Has nothing to do with money now. You know what I mean? That's probably a reason for us to say, yeah, no, we
Chair, I would, for I would be much more concerned about the person's character than his financial situation. I'd be much more wanting to know, does he have DUIs of his own? Has he ever been caught selling alcohol to minors? Does he do this? Does he do that? You know, much more concerned about that than I would about his financial status.
And yes, and those background checks are gonna happen.
Yep.
Right, you know, and so there's a couple, we talked about them at the last meeting, we don't need to do it here. But at any, I'm talking now, added to you guys tonight, the financial background check. if you will.
Check property, we used to have to check to make sure they have their property taxes paid up to date.
That's one of the requirements that can be checked. Because that is something the city has an interest in, making sure that.
I guess the only time I could see where this would be a problem if they were starting a mafia and they were roughing up the neighbors and collecting cash from them, and so we'd wanna know, how are you getting all this money, you know, let's see your financial statement, you know, cause that would be stuff that would be untrackable, you know, muscle money.
Is the financial statement, checking the financial background, is that something that's verbiage in there that it can be done? So if down the road you had this is.
Our ordinance reads, and Dan probably has it up already here.
I don't. I could, Bob sent it several times, so.
Right. Our ordinance reads that, yes, that is something that we can require.
Okay.
You know, it is there. So my whole point for tonight was, the council's take on this is, it's really none of our business
We never
how much
did.
money they have. You know what I mean? We don't need to do that. But in the event that we would need to do this for some reason someday in the future, we don't have any desires to go back and change our ordinance to take that out of it. So we're gonna leave it in the ordinance, leave it as written, if you will, whatever.
Okay.
But knowing that we really don't believe it's our business anyway. However, we have the ability, because we'll discuss it, you know, and say, yes, we don't believe we need to do this. We did our due diligence to say, we know we have this option. We discussed whether we should use it or not. And right now, we think we don't need to. On this application or this applicant, then we've done our due diligence to satisfy the state statute. And that's what. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioner update. Commissioner Swan.
I have one thing that come up. I think July 21st to the 25th, I have another conference. And I feel like that's our next regular meeting. Am I right in that?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think that.
Yes, it is, the 23rd.
Yeah, so I'll be gone that week too.
Okay.
Let me know if
Caleb,
it starts to
can you
become a
make note on that?
problem. But I still love being a commissioner. I love being here.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah,
that.
for
Thank
sure,
you.
for sure.
Commissioner Marshall.
Just one little thing, Dan can answer it, I'm sure. There's, I'm sure you can. There's, on 116, just on the almost south end of the county, of the city, there's roads being cut in and obviously a development of some sort going in there. When did we get to see that? Do you remember how old that is that we got to do that, or did we ever get to do it?
I don't know.
116th.
I'm on 116th up here, but you're talking down almost by
South
Cal.
of 9.
South of 9, way down there, yeah.
Is that Northland Ponds?
Huh?
Was that Northland Ponds?
What are we doing now?
Oh, yeah, I bet that's,
Cutting a road in there, a lot of land being cleared and a road being cut in.
Talking down by Cal, like across from Cantlin, 116th, way down at the, you said south end of the city.
South end of the
So
city.
you're talking way down here.
From County Road 45, you mean?
It's just north of the city line,
Right here.
on the east side of the road, west side of the road.
This is 116th.
oh, is that the one where, remember they cut the eagle nest down?
Yeah, that was Northland Pond.
Is what?
Northland Pond, the development that came in with the public upset about carving it up in the variance for the ordinary water off of
I see
30.
that.
Yep, it came through.
My memory is not as long as it is.
What do you notice about it that maybe you do or don't like?
You just saw they were doing things, and is that what raised your ire, or you just kind of
I
wondering?
saw it was going on there, I thought, I don't remember that. You know, so, I just thought I'd check that we did see it.
Remember that had the eagle's nest in the tree?
Yep.
And you remember the DNR said,
Oh, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
certain amounts of times that you
That's
can
right, yeah.
excavate around it, you gotta be careful, and you gotta
Yep.
do whatever.
Yep,
You
yep.
know, save it at all costs, which I don't disagree with.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong there, but for a $500 permit fee, get the tree out of it, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, eagle fly away.
Give the DNR $500, and then we don't have to worry.
Well, they said it was vacated nest, so hopefully that's the case.
The only other thing I might have is one of these days when we're not so behind, I want to talk about the cement flood control.
Oh, gosh.
Put that, have Kayla put that on our special. And if we have to, have Kayla put that on our special next month.
I just
if we
like to
have
tell
time.
the story
Okay,
of the flood control.
Okay.
So that we're all aware of it.
okay. Perfect.
because it's interesting, fascinating.
Fascinating, okay.
Then I'll bring all the MS4 stuff too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one too.
If we wanna tell stories,
Okay for you?
I'm good at it, too.
I only had one thing to say, and this was the big buildup, was last week I went home and I told, my wife asked me, she says, how was the meeting? I said, the meeting was great, but I said, the planning commission is fantastic. And she said, why? And I said, we adjourned at 8:58. I didn't get home till like 9:45 or 9:50 because we sat here. We just talked shop, we just talked about stuff it was so nice that we all got along and we were just talking, and I thought that really helps us when the respect for each other, and when someone's saying something, it's, you know, having respect for what they're saying, whether you disagree 100% or you agree, you know, it's nice that we can sit here and we can get along, and we're talking just as people who were here because we care about what happens to Baldwin, but when it wasn't Baldwin topics, we could just talk about whatever, whether it was our families or whatever it was. So I thought it was really nice that we all got along, and nobody had to go, so nobody got up for at least 25 minutes. We sat here and talked, so I thought that was really nice. So that, it's really nice to be the chairman of a committee when I talk to people about this, the planning commission. I talk about it in such high regard, and I came here tonight and it was like I had like a special bounce in my step, and I thought, why am I so happy to go tonight? And I was trying to think of it, and I thought it was because that was just that little thing that you don't always see. It's like we always get along and we always discuss things, but it was like when we just sat here and we talked, it was just so nice to say, I'm just one part, equal part, but I'm part of a committee that it's so nice to be part of. So thank you all for being who you are. That's all I had to say. Okay, on to J, city staff update. Mr. Lake.
Chair, we did get a new development application in, and we are working with the developer on compliance with the subdivision ordinance requirements. They have some plan revisions to make, so I don't know if it'll be at the July meeting, but certainly by August if they go forward.
Okay. And as of right now, then we are on for July 16th is our special.
Correct.
Okay, so that's the next thing on our agenda. Okay, K, miscellaneous information and communications, notes 1 through 4 below, please check them out. That brings us to L. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
That's a beautiful thing. I seen last week's meeting and.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Both same sign. Meeting adjourned at 9:11.